Hello, this is the second blog video demonstrating how we can use Python code to leverage a C++ reflection API with respect to a VBA project, and thus confer the capabilities of reflection to a VBA programmer where no native VBA reflection functionality exists. In other words, reflection is not normally available to a VBA developer, but with some clever code we can fix that. The use case this time is converting enumerations of the values of enumerations to strings and back. So in a previous post I highlighted how there is no inbuilt VBA language feature to give the string equivalent of an enumeration value, and that one had to write a helper function. But the helper function has to be kept synchronized, which can be a little painful. Luckily, we can use some more Python reflection code to help us with this. You are strongly advised to first read the prior article on Python reflection because this diagram may be a bit busy. The diagram first appears here. In this post, we continue to flesh out our diagram with more hyperlinks for methods and structures that we're going to use. Now, new on this diagram is the itype-lib interface, which is this rightmost box. One can acquire a reference to a classes containing type library, which will be a VBA project, via the classes itype-info interface by calling itype-info get containing type lib. Being able to acquire the containing type library, which will be a VBA project, is an important advance. In the prior reflection blog post or blog video, we got the runtime type information for a single VBA class instance, but now we have the capability to interrogate the whole type library or VBA project. In this post, I will give code which will find all the enumerations and write some helper functions to convert enumeration values to and from strings. Now, I'm sure I'll find other use cases of type library wide information, and I'm sure I will blog those as well. Now, another addition to this diagram is the link to the vardesk structure. Now, the documentation for that structure is unwelcoming to a VBA programmer at least. Don't worry, that documentation is typically for C++ programmers. We will be using a Python layer called python.com, which is authored by Tim Golden. The Python layer is beautiful to work with, so thanks, Tim. There's the documentation link. Now, so what's our strategy going to be to write code to find all the enumerations? So what we will do is we will get the iDispatch interface pointer for a given VBA class. We will get the class's iTypeInfo interface pointer by calling iDispatch getTypeInfo, which gets us to here. We will get the type libraries, or the VBA projects, iTypeLib interface pointer by calling iTypeInfo get containing type lib, which gets us to here, iTypeLib. And then we can get the total count of the types of the type library in the VBA project by calling iTypeLib get typeinfo count, and we use that to set up a for loop. In the for loop, well, we use the for loop to iterate over all the types in the type library or VBA project. On each iteration, we call iTypeLib getTypeInfo, and that will give us an iTypeInfo interface pointer for each type. Then we test. Once we have that, then we test the type kind, which is of the type attribute here, and you can see that that's an enumeration. So here's all different types in a type library. So the top one is an enumeration, and here you can see things like class. So we can detect what the enumerations are, and once we have an enumeration, then we can call our code our helper code. So that's the strategy. We need a Python script. I've called mine Python VBA enum helper, and I'll just show you this sitting in. I borrowed a project in the previous blog post. I was doing some Python dependency injector, so I've just given myself a separate script with a separate class, but the same deal applies. You have to call this once, at least once, from the command line with administrator rights so the registry can be updated. Alternatively, you can call it by pressing F5 in the Visual Studio. If it doesn't have rights to register to the registry, if it doesn't have admin rights, it will ask for an elevation. Once successfully registered, then you can create this class. You can create an instance of this class simply by using the VBA create object function. So that's going to be this line of code here. So I've given a strategy as to how we're going to get the type information, the enumeration information up above. So there's not a great deal more to talk about here. Simply to say that here we're getting the type library, and our entry point is going to be write my enum helpers, and then it's going to say go read the enums. So the enums are here, and this is where we iterate over the types, and we look for the type attribute, and then we see if it's 0, if it's an enumeration, and then we extract the information about the label and the value of the enumeration, and we put them in an array, and then we pass that back to our enum helper writers. So here we actually write some VBA code. So this is what this Python script does. It will look for your VBA project, looking for enumerations, and then it will write for you some helper functions. So I need some extra classes for source. So I've got two VBA classes down here which are going to serve as source for the enums. I put them in two separate ones because I want to demonstrate that this, we're writing code that can interrogate across the entirety of the VBA project or the type library. So I put them into two separate classes. So here we have enums, which is for cars, and here we have a second class called more enums, which is just some colors. And on top of that, we're going to need the client code. And once the client code is written, once the client code is run, if you run this procedure down here, test write enums helpers, you get something like this, which is this is something you just paste into your code. So that's up there, and so it converts a car as an enumeration, say BMW here, into the string BMW. Let's press F5 there to make sure it's still working. That's good. Now, so let's just see, shall we? So this is the client code. Most of this is error handling. What's the key point here is we create the instance of the Python object, and then we call in to write my enum helpers with an instance of class. So here we create enums, and it will interrogate the whole type library, so it should pick up the enums of the other class as well. Let's just write this. Let's just run this. So let's just run this with F5, and you can see that has picked up both enums, and so you can quite happily go paste that in. Now we already have this, so that's fine. Let's do something a little more interesting. Let's just say, okay, you did some development and you added some more enum values, and so now your function is out of sync. But and again here, so now your functions are out of sync. So that's painful. You'd have to go in. Without this code, you'd have to go in and amend this. But with this code, you can simply say, okay, fine, regenerate those helper functions. So press F5 again. Okay, so now we have Ferrari, and we have the yellow and the purple on the cars. So we just go down that and we just paste it in. Okay, still works. Good. Okay, so this is the second use case. I had done a runtime example with the dependency injection, and this is a dev time example. I'm going to go on and give another dev time example, so do please watch out for that. Thanks for watching.